In the past 24 hours, Rise of Kingdoms has had 3 new things come to light that were not in the patch notes, but they're pretty big deals. So today we're going to go over all 3 of them because 2 of them have some pretty big implications for the future of Rise of Kingdoms, and the 3rd is just really cool, so we have to talk about it. But before we jump in, of course, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, as you guys know, I'm a partner creator with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more Rise of Kingdoms content that covers all the new things the updates bring beyond what's just in the patch notes, go ahead and subscribe down below and drop a thumbs up on the video. It really helps out the channel a ton. All right, folks, let's jump right in here. And Scipio Prime being on the screen is no accident, because right after reset, Rise of Kingdoms sent out this mail saying, "Greetings, Governor, we will be updating museum relics for Flavius and Scipio Prime on August 31st 2026. Thank you for supporting Rise of Kingdoms. We hope you enjoy the game." Now, this is a big deal for multiple reasons, the number one being that Scipio Prime is a fan favorite commander that lots of people have their hands on, and so we have to do a deep dive into this in just a minute. But this is not the first thing that I want to touch on in this video. Okay, the first thing that I want to touch on is actually part of the update that I think was a complete accident that the developers did not mean to push out with this update, and that was actually a wording change within the resource nodes on the map in Rise of Kingdoms that suggests we're getting auto gathering coming soon to the game. Maybe, possibly. The reason that I'm showing you a screenshot right here is because if I jump over in game, this has actually already been removed, at least in my kingdom. You guys can let me know if this text change appears in your kingdom. All you have to do is find a resource point and click this little eye here. But again, shortly after reset, people started to notice a wording change within the text of resource points, suggesting that Rise of Kingdoms is getting an auto gathering mode. And there's been a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to how this is going to work, if it even comes to the game, and a lot of misinformation. Okay, I think a lot of people saw this, they got really excited because they thought of the auto barbing feature, and they thought, oh my god, the auto barbing feature is amazing. You just set it up and it just will automatically send out your gatherers. You don't have to actually do anything. You just get to sit there and have the game gather for you without doing anything throughout the entire day. That's amazing, right? And unfortunately, I'm almost positive that is not how this is going to work. But before I explain how this will work, if they add it to the game, and that's a big if, because like I said, the text has already been removed. Okay, so clearly this was an accident, but it also means that the developers are definitely considering adding something like this. So look who came to say hi. Hey, Tiger. Tiger's here to remind you guys that if you made it this far into the video, you definitely should leave a like down below, because she gets extra treats when you do. And I think that's why she comes up here when I'm recording, because she knows that if she comes up here, she gets treats. So whenever she sees me break out the microphone and turn on the camera, all of a sudden she wants attention. Anyway, first let's read what was actually in the game. Okay, bullet point number 6 says, when auto gather is enabled, your troops will continue to gather at a resource point until it is depleted. During auto gather, issuing any march command will end gathering. During auto gather, if an attack or another, and then the screenshot is cut off, but something your troop returns to the city, it will stop gathering and remain in the city. And then finally, your troop can gather 50 times per single auto gather command. After reaching the limit, it will no longer leave the city for gathering. Okay, so again, this is what got people very excited, because they saw that this text was also available on the gem nodes, right? And so people thought, oh my god, like I'll be able to turn on auto gathering and I'll just gather to 50 different gem nodes and get a bunch of gems with this feature, and that's amazing, right? And that's not how this is probably going to work. Now, the reason I'm saying that's not how this is going to work is because we actually already see auto gathering in Call of Dragons. Now, if you guys don't know, Call of Dragons is kind of like the sister game to Rise of Kingdoms, or the cousin to Rise of Kingdoms. It is developed by a different team, but it is still within the same Farlight Lilith publishing branch. Okay, and so these games are very closely related. When Call of Dragons came out, it was kind of seen as like the spiritual successor to Rise of Kingdoms, or Rise of Kingdoms 2. So a lot of times what you'll notice is that some features that are in Call of Dragons, they make their way into Rise of Kingdoms, and vice versa, right? Call of Dragons will sometimes take some inspiration for Rise of Kingdoms, and that's how that actually goes. And if we jump into Call of Dragons, which is something I haven't done in literally years, what you will see is that if you click on a resource point, there's already a button here that says auto gather until empty, right? And if we click the little eye, we can actually see that there is a bunch of text that looks very familiar when auto auto gather is enabled, a legion will automatically gather from a resource point until it's exhausted. All of this is exactly the same as what was written in Rise of Kingdoms. Okay, so we know that this auto gather feature is already in Call of Dragons. So how does it work in Call of Dragons? Okay, well, let me go ahead and send out a gatherer here, and I'm just gonna send 7 Vestals. Okay, let's send 7 Vestals with auto gather until empty turned on, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it should only take a few seconds to fill up this army with resources, and we'll see. Okay, we filled it up already. It's walking back to the city. Let's see what happens with auto gathering turned on. The march has completely filled its capacity, and all of a sudden the march returns back to the node. Okay, so essentially what is happening here is, because I only put 7 troops in this army, the gathering capacity is extremely low, and so they gather until the capacity is maxed. They walk back to the city, deposit the resources, then they return to the node, and they do that up to 50 times. Okay, now you might be saying, well, Omniarch, what's kind of like the point of that, right? I mean, like, I don't have any use for that at all. Like, my armies have plenty of gathering capacity. I never have a problem with that, right? Well, the answer is new players, right? New players who join Call of Dragons or Rise of Kingdoms, they may encounter a node, whether it's a food, wood, stone, whatever. They encounter a node, and they simply, because they're a new player, they don't have enough troops to gather that node completely. But also, it's really annoying to leave the incomplete nodes on the map, because if they're incomplete, they don't disappear, right? And so it's really frustrating for other players who are about to log off. They don't want to send their gatherers to an incomplete node and not get the full value there, right? And so Call of Dragons has this feature called auto gather, where if you are a new player, or you simply just don't have enough troops to complete that specific node, you just turn on auto gather, and the army will go back and forth until that node is depleted, and then they sit inside your city and they do nothing, right? And that's just it. Okay, so that is most likely how this feature is going to work in Rise of Kingdoms. I don't want people to get confused thinking like, oh my god, Rise of Kingdoms is allowing people to farm an infinite number of gems or gold or whatever the case is. No, that's not how this is probably going to work. It's most likely going to work exactly as it does in Call of Dragons, and if that is the case, then most likely people aren't even going to notice this change, right? Like I said, somebody like me, I've got plenty. Hey, who didn't finish this level 7 cropland? What is this, amateur hour over here? This kingdom is 2,490 days old, and we don't know that we're supposed to finish the damn nodes. Guys, get it together. 1568, what are you doing? Okay, anyway, my point is, if you're in the end game, you have plenty of troops, you're never going to need this feature. It's never going to impact you at all. It's just a quality of life feature for new players to Rise of Kingdoms. At least that is my understanding here, if this will work the same way it works in Call of Dragons. And I think that it will, because like I said, the text is literally identical, right? The text in each node from that game to this game, or at least the way the text used to be implemented before they removed it from the game, okay, it is basically identical. So that is the new auto gathering system. We don't even know if this is actually coming to the game, but it seems like it's something the developers are working on. It's just not quite ready yet, and they accidentally pushed out the text update to the nodes, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so I can expect auto gathering to appear at some point in the future, at some point maybe, but at this point it's not in the game, and also it's not what you think it might be. Okay, so that's the first thing that was not in the patch notes that I wanted to discuss with you. The second is the Scipio Prime Relic. Okay, now the reason that I want to talk about this in this video is because this is actually a game changer, and by that I mean, not only is Scipio Prime getting a relic a big deal because of how powerful he already is, but this actually totally breaks the sort of precedent and cycle that the developers have been in when it comes to releasing relics for commanders, right? Because if we take a look at the museum right now, the order with which they've revealed or released these relics is in the exact same order that they have released the commanders, with the only exceptions being the new commanders that they've added to the game since then. Like legendary Pelagius got a relic because he just landed in the game. Same thing with new KVK1 commanders like Pyrrhus, or commanders like, I think Siege has one as well, yeah, right here. So like, besides those new commanders, they've actually been very consistent with releasing relics in the exact same order that commanders came out, right? And so if we look at Trajan and Moctezuma, those are the most recent relics that we've gotten in that order. You would expect the next relics to be Jadwiga and Zhang Yu, right? That those should be the next relics that we get. In fact, if we come over to this spreadsheet where I've been keeping track of the release dates and the sort of release order of all the commanders in Rise of Kingdoms, what we'll see is that, like I said, Moctezuma and Trajan were the most recent relics we got. Jadwiga, Zhang Yu should be the next ones, but not only did they skip these two, they actually skipped the entirety of the 5th generation, right? We skipped Jadwiga, Zhang Yu, Pakal, Chuk, Amanitore, Gilgamesh, Suleiman, and Honda, and then we also skipped Bertrand and Nevsky. So we went from February 2021 to April of 2022. We literally skipped over a year's worth of commander releases right here, okay, just to get us the Flavius and Scipio Prime relics, right? So there's a couple of reasons why they could have done this. First of all, they may recognize that they are releasing relics too slow and they're never going to catch up to relevant commanders at the current release rate, so they decided to skip some commanders, right? And if you look at the 5th generation, it's actually really interesting because a lot of these are like rally garrison releases, right? We see the cavalry was rally garrison. We see, of course, infantry is rally versatility. I gotta change this. This is no longer the attack tree. That's what it used to be. Archers had rally garrison. With leadership, we had rally versatility, and then the 6th generation was rally versatility. But my point is, there's a lot of rally garrison commanders here, and maybe they're just like, look, there's no point in releasing them. No one's going to use them. It doesn't even matter, especially when we're looking at, you know, a Zhang Yu rally, its skill damage, it's just never going to happen, right? Same thing with Pakal rally. I mean, maybe Pakal because he's kind of anti-swarm, right? So they could do something there, but a Amanitore, like, Gilgamesh, these commanders are almost certainly never coming back to the rally garrison meta, no matter what they do with the relic, unless they do something insane, right? And so one of the reasons that they could have just skipped the whole 5th generation and Bertrand with Nevsky is because it's pointless, right? Like, those relics are objectively pointless to even make because it's not going to do anything ever. Like, no one's ever going to unlock them. They're never going to use them. So it's just a waste of development time and resources, art assets, all that stuff, right? But that doesn't explain why they skipped Bertrand with Nevsky, right? Because Bertrand had a KVK2 rework, and Nevsky historically was one of the strongest open field cav commanders the game has ever seen, only within like the last year fully falling out of the meta, right? And so if we look at that, then it's like, okay, well, maybe the argument I was using before doesn't make much sense. I think a more likely reason why they're adding the Flavius Scipio relics is because Scipio Prime recently got a new commander skin in the game, right? And one of the biggest things that I pointed out when they revealed this commander skin, and many other people pointed it out as well, I know Chiskel mentioned it in a video, but basically everyone agreed that, like, it makes no sense to release a skin for a commander that is not relevant to the meta, right? Like, why would you go through the Fountain of Dreams or whatever it's called and get all these clam keys and get all this currency and spend all this time and potentially even money to get the new skin, and then you never use him because he's not meta? It's pointless, right? And I think the developers recognize that and want to add value to a commander that people may have recently spent money on, right? Straight up. And so I think that is the most likely reason why we're seeing a CPO relic right now, is because this skin exists, right? Now, if they're going to go out of their way to create a skin for CPO, and they're going to go out of their way to skip over a year's worth of other relics just to drop his in the game, I think, right, and this is just my speculation, but I think the relic has to move the needle, right? I think it has to be something that is semi-decent, it's semi-good, it does something of value, right? Because if we look at a lot of the relics in the game, most of them are complete garbage. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves, they're complete trash, right? Like, Guan Yu got a relic, he used to be meta, the relic did nothing. William's relic, he was used with or without this thing, right? Like, most of these relics are actually useless, right? I mean, the Ragnar relic, I guess, is used a little bit, but most of them are trash, right? They're mostly trash, they don't do anything. And so if they're going to go out of their way to release the CPO relic early with the hopes that it makes his, you know, the people who got his skin happier, or that they use him again, I think the relic has to be at least somewhat good. I don't think this is going to be a simple Guan Yu relic where it's 5% attack, 10% defense, right? Like, maybe it will, okay? And again, I genuinely don't have insider information animation here, so that could be it, right? But I personally think that the relic for Scipio Prime is gonna be better than not. I think it's gonna be one of the higher end relics in the game, and I think it's gonna be one of those relics where it's good now, and then once it starts to fall out of the meta, they add a tier 2 to it and they add just enough stats to bring him back to semi-relevance. Right now, do I think his new upcoming relic is going to be game breaking, new meta, oh my god, it changes everything? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. They could do that, again, strictly because of the skin. They could absolutely do that, but I don't think that it will completely change the meta. I think it will just be one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're a free-to-play player or a low spender and you still are running, you know, Scipio with Liu Che or something like that, here's a relic. It's going to move the needle, it's going to help you out, but it's not going to totally change the meta, right? Especially because he's skill damage, and I think with Pincer 2 just coming out and a lot of people have moved over to Pincer 2, I think it would kind of piss a lot of people off if the new Scipio relic is like busted good and then it's like, okay, now your third infantry march has to be skill damage. It's like, oh my god, why? We wasted all those conversion stones, right? So again, I don't think it's going to break the game, but I do think it's going to be one of the better relics that we've ever seen because of the cosmetic that we have in the game. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm standing with the Scipio relic. When it comes to the Flavius relic, I think his relic is going to be mostly performative, right? I mean, not to say he's a bad commander, right? Like 2300 damage factor is definitely low, but in the Raleigh Garrison meta, it's not that much lower than other commanders, right? I mean, Hayam's damage factor is 2500, right? So it's not like it's totally like worthless, you know what I mean? So they could easily add a relic that adds 300 damage factor here, and then boom, he's basically on par with the current meta, but he's gonna need a lot more on his kit to really move the needle, and I think they could do something interesting with him, right? Like his kit in general is actually not that bad, really. It's genuinely not. He's got counterattack damage here, 20% at all times. They could easily add another 10-15% there and it could be devastating, right? And especially in artifact garrisons and stuff. So like there's definitely something here where they could make Flavius relevant again and it wouldn't actually take that much. So I'm really curious to know what this relic is going to be, but I will say that of the two relics between Flavius and Scipio, I think the Scipio relic is probably going to be stronger. We'll have to wait and see, especially because we have a new garrison coming down the pipeline, right? At the end of this year, I suspect a new infantry garrison is coming. I don't know that for sure, but that's just kind of what would make the most sense with how they've been releasing things over the years. And so with a new upcoming garrison for infantry, I would be shocked if they made Flavius broken again, right? Because then it's like, oh my god, right? Now the flip side of that argument could be they're going to release a garrison that works really well with Flavius, and that could be really cool, right? I would really like to see that. The elephant in the room, of course, is that he's skill damage, right? So like it's going to be really difficult to justify, but at the same time, again, here comes the artifact KVK, and I mean, perhaps he works in an archer garrison or something like that, right? Like who knows? But I'm interested to see what his relic's going to be. I don't think it's going to really move the needle because he's skill damage, but you know, the rest of his kit is like surprisingly not that bad, and they could definitely do something interesting there. Okay, so that is the second thing that was not in the patch notes that I wanted to cover in this video. The new relics are coming relatively soon, literally like 3 days from the time of recording this, and we're gonna see what they are, and I'm kind of excited about that, right? I'm always excited to see old commanders potentially come back to the meta. I think that's very healthy for the game. It's very healthy for free-to-play players and low spenders who can't max every commander. But on top of that, okay, and this is something that I don't know if anybody is going to mention, but the Rise of Kingdoms anniversary event is right around the corner, and with it comes the grand reunion event where you can invite old players back to the game and get some gems and keys and things like that as a result of doing so, right? And so what this means is Rise of Kingdoms is about to have a big push of players trying to get their friends to come back to the game, and they're going to land in Rise of Kingdoms and they might still have Scipio Prime from back when they played in 2023 or 2024, right? And so they come back to the game, they say, oh my god, I don't have any of the meta commanders. Just kidding, they released a relic for Scipio Prime and now he's at least somewhat relevant, somewhat viable, right? He's not going to be S tier, but maybe he's like a high B tier, low A tier commander. And I think that the timing of all of this is, you know, maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't think so, right? I think that this makes a lot of sense with the new Scipio skin, with the returning player event coming. I think the odds that Scipio's relic is good is higher than for most relics that we see in the game, and I think this is absolutely part of Rise of Kingdoms plan when it comes to releasing that relic. Okay, and the last thing I want to touch on in this video that was not in the patch notes is the new Zenith of Power skins. And it's kind of funny, like my last video, one of the things I mentioned was like, hey, where's Zenith of Power? It's supposed to be in the patch notes, it's coming in September, we know it's probably coming in September, why is it not in the patch notes? And then as I'm releasing that video, they released the Zenith of Power skins, right? So the timing was horrible with that. Okay, but I posted these as soon as they went live, the Zenith of Power skins. I posted them on my community page, so if you didn't see them when they dropped, then you should definitely subscribe to the channel. You're probably not subscribed, and also join my Discord down below where I posted these as soon as the news dropped. Okay, but we actually got two different Zenith of Power skins this time, and one is for troop defense and one is for siege attack. Right now, a lot of people were very confused about this. They didn't know why they did two, and it's because I don't remember exactly when, but I'm almost positive in a face-to-face with the developers or something like that, they mentioned that they would have something for siege players when it comes to Zenith of Power, right? And in my last video I talked about how it would be very weird if they wasted an entire Zenith cycle for siege players, because people who run exclusively siege 2 or more marches, that percentage of the player base is so tiny that it just would not make any sense to do that, right? And here we can see that they actually agreed with me basically by releasing two skins at the same time. And the way this is going to work is that the Bloodblaze crown is the current Zenith of Power skin, and this is the one where you're going to have to probably train 60 million power to guaranteed get it, which is ridiculous, but at least it's very strong. And then the Jade Plume Palace is actually going to go into the Zenith shop, and it's going to be something that returns every single Zenith, right? So every time Zenith of Power comes around, you'll have the ability to try to get the Jade Plume Palace. You'll probably have to train 45 million power for this or something like that. If you wanted to only win the Zenith through leaderboards to get this skin, you're out of luck, because people are going to train insane for this thing, and so the timing actually kind of sucks for siege players, but at least this will return every single time. And so if you don't get it this time, that's fine. With the next release, you'll be able to compete for this, although I think the next release is Cavs, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can let me know in the comments if that's wrong, but I think the Cav one is going to have a lot of heavy competition as well, because we see the new Cav rally landing in just a couple of days. So I don't know, bad news for the siege players, but either way, they announced these two skins. I think they look fine. I think the siege one looks very similar to other Mayan skins that we have, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? I mean, again, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but like, this is going to be one of the least popular Zenith skins in the game, and everybody knows it. So I don't know, like, not that that means they should have a bad design, but I think the design is fine. Like, yeah, it looks similar to another one, but also like, there's like how many skins in the game at this point, right? Like at some point they're going to overlap in some aspects. Like there's just no getting around that. It's not possible unless we start branching out into fiction, right? Like literal fiction, other games in Rise of Kingdoms genre. Okay, so pick whichever one you want. I've played 100 games in this genre. A lot of times they'll have castle skins that are ridiculous, right? Like it'll be like an Easter bunny for Easter, and it's just literally a giant Easter bunny. Like it looks stupid, right? It's not even close to historically relevant. And so unless Rise of Kingdoms starts doing that, and we're already pushing the border, right? I mean, we have like the sailboat skin with like the unicorn and stuff, which looks epic, right? It looks amazing. I love it. But all I'm trying to say is that unless we start going into absolute fiction, you have to expect some of these skins are going to overlap. There's just no way around it, right? I mean, there's only so many historical civilizations that they can pick from, and some elements are going to be overlapping, right? Like it is what it is. The Bloodblaze crown I'm getting, okay, just so in case you guys were wondering, I'm getting this. It's not a question. I have enough speed ups, probably have enough resources. I'll have to double check. I already told Kingdom leadership I'm getting this skin. Okay, so if you're watching this and you're in my Zenith continent, I'm confirming there's at least one other player that will be competing with you, and that is me. I will just gain 60 million power. That's it. If I come in first place, great. If I don't, I don't care. I don't care about the, you know, little animation you get or the animated avatar frame or whatever. I don't care about any of that. I am just gonna get the skin, and that's it. This skin is insane. I think it looks incredible, by the way. It has like a flaming Roman helmet on the top, which looks absolutely sick. You've got the hoplites or the Spartan looking figures over here, which looks absolutely incredible. We have 16% troop defense. It's literally double the stats you get from the KVK shop skin, right? The KVK shop skin, Hawa Mahal or whatever, that's 8%. This is 16. It's literally double. It is for all troop types, right? So all of my whole lineup, infantry, cavalry, archers, all of that get the defense. Unfortunately, this actually isn't great for infantry. Infantry already have so much defense, but it's fantastic for cavalry and archers. So it is what it is. Also, the infantry aren't going to hate it, really. I mean, it's going to be fine either way. So this is by far, I think, the best skin in the game. The only thing that even comes close to it is last year's 16% attack skin, and by best skin in the game I mean best skin for open field PvP, right? For Rally Garrison, obviously there are better things, but even for Rally Garrison, like, this is quite good. Like, this is, it's not S plus tier, but it's probably S tier, right? Like, it's right up there. I mean, it's 4% shy of the troop specific ones, but if you're a mixed garrison, I mean, like, I don't know, this is really good, right? So I'm really happy with the design. I think the stats are phenomenal, and I've been waiting since 2021 to push for another Zenith. I haven't pushed a Zenith in 5 years, and so I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm stoked. I think this is fantastic, and I'm gonna be really mad if next year they release a 16% troop health skin, because they skipped 12% health. Okay, I'll remind you guys, they did not do a 12% universal health skin. Okay, so I'm expecting them to skip a 16% universal health skin, and I hope that they skip it, because if they don't, I'm gonna be very mad that I got this. Although realistically, I think it's fine, right? I think it's fine. I'm happy to have it. So yeah, I love the Zenith of Power. I think the stats are phenomenal. The 5% action point recovery is literally just a bonus, right? And I think the design is really cool, right? So, and I'm also glad that Siege are finally getting something as well for those players that do actually run more than one Siege. And by the way, that's the only player who should get this, right? If you're only running one Siege March in your lineup, this is horrible, right? Definitely don't get this. You only should get this if you're running like 2 or 3 Siege Marches on your account. Otherwise, don't ever get this. But yeah, I'm glad Siege at least got something, right? At least they got something. It's been a long time coming, so that is good for them, and I think it looks fine. It's a little bit repetitive, but I think it looks fine. But guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Those are the 3 things that were not in the patch notes that are absolutely a big deal. So if you guys made it all the way to the end of this video, make sure you drop a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. While you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload a Rise of Kingdoms video, and comment down below your thoughts on everything. What do you think about the auto gathering, and how is that going to work, and are we even going to get it? What do you think about the Scipio Relic? Do you think it's going to be good and move the meta? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.